Hi everybody. I wanted to talk to you about applying for disability and the process of it, give you a little bit of advice. From my experience, I have been taking care of claims specifically for disability for the last 2 years. I have been doing it at bedside at a hospital for over 10 years. And those cases were a lot easier than the ones that I have been dealing with the last couple of years. So I did want to just give you a little bit of advice. I am going to be talking about the initial application from start to finish, getting denied, appealing, discussing over the forms that you'll be receiving, how to fill those out, and just to start off, I do want to talk about malingering or lying in your claim. I'm not trying to get you approved, falsely approved. What I'm trying to do is just help out as much as I can and just make it less stressful on you. It's a pretty easy process. And I want to make it as easy for you guys as possible. So we'll see how far we can get. And if you have any questions, please leave them on the comments below, and I'll try to answer as much as possible. So let's first start with the certain criteria. Now, these aren't all the criteria. This is just some. And Social Security will approve somebody if they're permanently disabled for over a year, meaning you cannot work for over a year. That doesn't mean that you have to be out of work for a year. That just means that the condition that you have will keep you out of work for at least 1 year. That's just one thing. So there's several conditions, obviously, that you can get approved of, just not one single condition. It could be a variety of different conditions. So every single claim, every single person is different. They're going to evaluate it differently. This isn't for retirement. This is if you're under 65 and you're not receiving any kind of disability at this point. You cannot be working either. You can't be working over 25 hours a week. You will be automatically denied. It won't even leave the local office. And there's a monthly limit as well of how much you should be receiving or could be receiving. So they do allow you to work part-time, under 25, not making more than around 1,090 a month. And you can still continue the process and apply. But if you're over that, it's a denial. So you have to be not working. Let's see. You do have to be legal, obviously here, resident or a citizen, and you have to be to qualify for disability benefits, which is two different kinds. It's SSI, the supplemental, and the SSDI. The SSDI is how much you put into it, how much money you've been putting into they're called work credits. So you do need recent work or work credits to receive your SSDI benefits. If you don't have enough, then they'll screen you for the SSI. And that one depends on your income and your assets. So if you're over income on that and you're over assets, then that's not going to work out. You should still try to apply and reach out to your local office, because there's a lot of other things. This isn't just the basics. I'm just going over the basics at this time. The process, the time process. Now, Social Security will tell you that it takes about 60 to 90 days to get a decision. That actually depends on the state that you're in. That's actually pretty quick, 60 to 90 days. I have gotten decisions rather quickly, but that's because I'm actively working on it and I'm assisting them on obtaining all the evidence or medical records, proper forms to get it processed. So my advice is to just start your application as soon as possible, and we'll go over the initial application and the importance of the information on that in just a second. There are ways to expedite a case, and that depends on your condition. Terminal conditions, of course, that can get approved a lot quicker within the Social Security office. You just have to reach out to the representatives there. I suggest to go to an office if you do have one of these terminal illnesses. A lot of hospitals also have social workers that can help you and apply for disability and take care of everything, like how I used to send in all the medical records and all the evidence so they can automatically approve it for you as a presumptive case. So wounded warriors also, that's another way to expedite the case. Homeless, you can expedite it a little bit quicker there as well. They do have to still review your medical records, so that can take some time. Foreclosures depends on the state that you're in, because let's say Florida, foreclosures can take 2 years for them to get to actually kick you out of the house, so that won't really expedite it as much, but that can be something. If your electricity is cut off and you need a oxygen machine, that sort of thing can expedite the case. So those are just some things that can get that expedited for you, or a quicker decision. That doesn't mean that you're going to get approved, but you can get a decision a little bit quicker. There's a couple of other things, and I'll try to go over that once we get a little bit further in the process. Now, the initial application is, I think, really important, because that application will stay with you throughout the whole process. For example, if you do get denied and you appeal it, you take it to a hearing, that can take about a couple of years. That initial application will always stick to that case, so you want it to go with as much as information as the beginning. It can delay the process as well. So you are going to need the list of your conditions, all of your conditions. So not just, let's say you have back pain and that's the reason why you cannot work, but you also have diabetes, you also have hypertension. You want to have everything in there. It doesn't matter if you think it's a disability on its own or not. Just add every condition on there. Even acid reflux sometimes can be really painful for some people. So add anxiety, just as long as you have discussed it with your doctor and it actually is on your medical records. You should definitely add all the conditions. Also, be detailed on the conditions, like the diabetes type 1, type 2. If you're taking insulin, make sure you're clear on that. That's one thing that they're going to add or ask for, so have all of that before you start your application. Third party or a family member, they will request that as well in the application. And who you want to add is somebody that that knows your conditions the best, that can see you on a daily basis, because they are going to send them a report in the future for them to fill out. So you don't want just somebody random filling out those forms for you. And those forms do stay in the claim also all throughout the case. So they will request that name, address, and phone number. Medical records, where are they going to get the evidence from? All the doctors that you've seen have their names, addresses, and phone numbers, the dates that you've seen them from what date to what date. Hospitals, names, addresses, phone numbers, when you were hospitalized, emergency visits, inpatient visits, outpatient visits. All of the current medicine that you're on, they will be requesting that as well. So have that handy, and make sure you don't skip any hospitals. If you are out of town and you went to a hospital, try to get that information, because it can be really important. The more evidence that you have, the stronger the case will be. Now, the date of your disability, that's at the beginning of the application, and that's really important. The date is usually the last time that you worked full-time because of your condition. Now, if you stopped working a year or 2 years ago and your disability started a year ago, you're not going to use that date. But for most people, they stop working because of their disability. So when you stop working full-time, that's the date that you're going to use. Now, if that's not the issue, then you're going to use the date that you were diagnosed or that your symptoms started and then you were diagnosed, or that are on the same month. And the reason why that is so important is that's the date that they're going to start your benefits. So if you use today's date and you've had these conditions for a year, you just lost a year of benefits. So that is really important. So the initial application, those are the most important things. They are going to ask you spouse's information, if you have any dependents, children under 18, because they can qualify for benefits as well. Your income for last year, the last 2 years, technical information that your maiden name, if you've used any other name, last names. So that's what they're going to ask at the beginning. Then they'll send you to the second portion of the application, and this is all online. This is the quickest way to get there, which is SSA.gov. You just go to the disability section and it'll start the application. It's really simple. Just keep on going through the whole thing. And then they'll throw you into the doctors, hospitals, and medicine. And on the remarks section at the end of the application, what I usually like to do is just paint a picture of the reasons why you cannot go back to work. Work history, last 15 years of the work history is what they're going to need as well. The job descriptions, the job titles, from what date to what date, and the rate of pay that you were working. So it's either the last 15 years or the last 5 years, so whichever one's max. They're going to ask for that in the initial application. They will request further information on your work history, because that's how they're going to evaluate your case. They're going to evaluate your case on what you were doing in the past. Can you go back to that work? Can you learn new work? So if you're over 55, they're not expecting you to learn a new job if you've been doing it in the past. But if you're under, they do expect you to learn something else. So let's say if you were doing construction and you can't be standing for that long and you're underage, they're going to see if you are able to do anything less demanding, less physically demanding. So you're going to need your work history. But on the remarks section, sorry if I'm jumping a little bit, we're going to write a little argument, a little summary on the reasons why you cannot go back to work, on your conditions, on your limitations. Just a quick little, I can't sit for long periods of time. I can't use my hands for long periods of time, depending on what your condition is. Once you submit the application, Social Security will contact you. They'll call you within a couple days to a week, depending how busy the office is, and they will go over their information. They're going to screen you for the SSI benefit, which is a supplemental benefit. They're going to ask you about your income and your assets. They'll let you know if you qualify for that or not. And then they will send that claim over to your state office, to the Disability Determination Services, for DDS. And they are the ones that are going to request all the medical records, review your case, and make a decision. They're going to be the ones sending you forms also to fill out. So I'll be talking about in the future videos those forms, the process from there on out. And make sure whenever you get any kind of phone call, write down their names, phone numbers, and extension, because you are going to want to follow up on your case. I'll give you a time guide sort of to give them a call if you haven't received anything or heard from them. I'll talk to you in the next video. Hopefully this was a little bit helpful, and thanks for watching.